Hey everybody, it's GCU Bill. How are you? It's been a while since I've been online to share how things are going in the PhD program at Grand Canyon University. Things are going awesome from my end. I'm about 2 weeks away, a week away from completing my first full year. Yay! Big celebration. You never know how it's going to go. It's hard to believe it's already been a year since I started making these videos talking about what's it going to be like once I start the program? So I've done research course 811, 825. I've done psychology course 802, 803, 804, and 807. And the big one that I got done, which is very interesting, is residency, the first one, 851, residency 851. The residency program or the residency week out in Arizona was very interesting. Of course, you don't know for sure what to expect. You get all the pre-work done the week ahead of time as required for the course, and then you go. Talk about an immersive week. Now, I was lucky, or I guess it depends on how you look at it, but I was the very last group that got to do it at the hotel at that resort. You may remember that with all the COVID stuff going down, the hotel on campus, the GCU campus, was closed. And so the doctoral school had made a partnership with a resort in Phoenix, and the doctoral residency was actually held there. And I was in the very last group that got to do that. I was a little spoiled, right? But there was so much work, there really wasn't time to enjoy a whole lot of the amenities of the resort. Although I did think I saw one or two people actually use the pool stuff, but I didn't get to hang out in my bathing suit. It was just too busy, too much work. It was a tremendous amount of work, not to mention the time change. It seems like it would be not a problem, but I guess as you get older, physically and mentally, as you switch 2 to 3 hours, it messes you up. You're up so early, ready to work, and everybody's still asleep. And then at the end of the night, you're so tired. It's 8 or 9 o'clock at night, but for you, it's like 11 or midnight. So, in any case, the residency was fantastic. As far as advice goes for the residency, take your time and get prepared. I mean, by prepared, I mean, gosh, know your topic, know what you want to do your research on. If you have no clue, it's really going to be hard. So at least narrow in your area or your zone. I was really happy that I had, decided on doing these chatbot things. Originally, it started in robots and made my way around, and I had started studying these chatbots and things like that. So I knew my space pretty well and had read a ton. You do need to know your articles and stuff because guaranteed everybody in my particular group at residency had their idea of whatever they were doing shifted. Um, some major shifts for some people, and then for other people, it was more of a changing of vocabulary, which happened to be my case. I knew my topic pretty well, and I was really good about having found lots of things that pointed to the gap or the new name. I think it's research space or gap space or some such thing. But I had found articles, I have like 6 or 7 recent, like 2020, 2021 articles that show my problem space. Yeah, that's the phrase. My problem space exists and what I want to study is like really needed. So that was really good there, but I didn't know how to formulate the right phrases. And it's amazing how the vocabulary can impact things. I even that word impact. I use the word impact in my problem statement. Boy, that was a big no-go. And the two PhDs, there was a methodologist and a master methodologist who led our particular group of about 13 people, and I'll speak about that in a minute. But those two, the methodologists and master methodologists, both with PhDs themselves, obviously, and I found that every time I'd open my mouth, I was using the wrong words. There's nuance and meaning that's behind every word you use, and that's becoming a smart doctoral person. You've got to know the right language, and I'm ignorant of the whole terminology, but I learned really fast. I have a very heavy math background, And, with all my physics background and my graduate studies and advanced stuff with data spaces and theoretical data structures and all of that stuff, I know vectors and I know how to do projections like eigenvector projections into, multidimensional space. But all that vocabulary meant nothing. So even though when I was trying to explain why I was picking to use a MANOVA for my space, because I couldn't speak the language, it didn't matter. In fact, every time I opened my mouth, I might as well just stuck my foot right back in it because I was saying things all wrong as it relates to doing studies in social sciences space, and that's part of the learning. And so it was quite eye-opening and showed me my big gap is learning the right ways to say the right things and have everybody agree. And here I am wanting to enter into that population of people. Well, I've got to know their vocabulary, so that's on me. It was great because it showed me what I didn't know. And that is, I didn't know the right language. I know my topic space. They could ask me a question, and man, I could whip out an article that had studies and details and data. I had my instruments. I was asked about my levels of, I think it was the R value of the validity of the tool I wanted, and I remembered it was like 0.87. So I whipped that. I mean, that was great and all that stuff, but I didn't know how to express it in words. So lots of work for me to go back and revisit my 10 strategic points and how I'm phrasing everything. Oh my gosh. The master methodologist I had, Rosalind Polk, was phenomenal. She helped me so much. I mean, she could see through what I was doing. She acknowledged that my particular area and what I'm doing is a little mathematically complicated, but she could tell, and we discussed it. The issue isn't the math for me, the doing the mathematics. So she was okay with it. And she helped me formulate the right way to say what I'm trying to say. And she coached the heck out of me, recommended a book for me. And so as soon as she told me the book I should get so I can learn the space, so this is the book she recommended. I'm sure it's all reversed for you. I don't know if the camera's going to reverse it, but this Graviter book, Essentials of Statistics for Behavioral Sciences. This has been great. I've been using it to help me drive my vocabulary so I can express all of the stuff I've been doing. So when I showed up, I was in my fifth class. And so that's when you become eligible to go to residency. So I was in my fifth class. There were people in their ninth and 10th, and even past, I think one was in their 11th class. They were going from residency one, finishing it. I think if I heard them right, they were literally staying the next week and starting residency two. Like they were that far along. So there were people that was twice as far along as I was. And so they had a lot better idea in some cases. But I also found in other cases they didn't have a better idea what they were doing. I was quite comfortable with that. So 13 people signed up. There are 13 on the roster. 12 physically showed up. And of those 12, by the end of the week, 2 had already dropped. So we were down to 10. Why did they drop? I'm sure they had their own reasons. You can tell that some of them had not put in the time needed to really know their space. So there was just no way they can keep up with what was being asked of them to go and do. Because what happened was on the first day, they start reviewing your materials. Well, not mine. Everybody else's except mine and one other person because they just ran out of time. But they review your stuff. They give you lots of feedback. And then the next day, you better deliver it's fixed and updated. Since so my first name is William. And so alphabetically, my first name, I was last on the list. So as they were going down, I just didn't get seen the very first day. Second day, I finally did get seen first thing in the morning, and then I kind of had to catch up, through the day, do all that work so that maybe I can get a second chance of getting my work seen. But if I didn't know my material well, so when you get all that feedback, you got to incorporate it. You got to go pull more articles to support your things that you're saying. So here you are showing your 10 strategic points. In my case, the master methodologist reviewed it, started asking me a bunch of questions about what I was trying to do and say, pointing out where I had gaps. And then that evening, I'd have to go back, go through my articles, and provide support and ideas and get my nomenclature right. So if you didn't really know your space or hadn't done enough reading, you had no chance. And I think that's what happened to those two people. I think that they were being asked a lot of things and they couldn't answer. And then they didn't feel in the evening they had the time or bandwidth or whatever, they had their own life. Who knows what was going on? They weren't able to do what was required to keep the tempo and the pace. But the other 10 of us did. Of the 10 students, I think 2 or 3 of them I became pretty good friends with. We've had a couple emails since the course is over. A few I really didn't get to know. One didn't like me, I didn't like them. Weird personality things. I guess they don't like bald people. I don't know. But it was a great experience, so much fun, and I really got energized by it. It was like, yeah, my stuff. Oh, but I don't know how to say it. So it was that was a neat experience. I did learn listening to others that some people have good counselors like me. I have a great student services counselor. Her name is Brittany. Fantastic, and other ones don't. And I was listening to their horror stories, and I don't know what to say. I felt bad for them that they didn't know what to do next or where they were going. But so far, mine has been on the ball, and every time I've asked a question, I mean, like within an hour or two, I get a response back. So Brittany, superstar. Um, so great feedback, great experience. It can be nerve-wracking, especially if you don't know and have a lot of reading done in your particular area that you think you're going to study. It didn't happen to me, but I will share that like of half the class, the way people were presenting their topic, it sounded almost like they were doing a clinical thing, and they all got rejected. Nope, can't do it. That's clinical trials. You're not allowed to do that. And it wasn't like they were doing drugs or something, but the population they want to study all had a label of some kind. So I'm going to make this up, but imagine like PTSD. If you formally got that label, don't work with that population unless you are licensed to deal with that population. Now, there were ways around that, of course, that the coaches would help, but you couldn't specifically name a population unless you were licensed to deal with that population. And then, even then, you'd still have to get GCU to approve of it. And it just looked like a giant mountain that it was easier to change the scope of the study or population, maybe to be a population nearby, or change the way you're not doing something that's like a trial based thing. I don't know. It didn't happen to me, but I could certainly listen to other people and hear how they were doing. How's the dissertation going? I have been aggressive about doing my dissertation. I'm still working on it. Funny, when I turned it in, so at the very end of residency, you finish your physical time there, then you still have 2 weeks after to turn more things in. So it came back. I took their feedback. I made updates. I actually started working on the dissertation, like body document itself, and that got sent in. And there were, I think, 5 sections that had to start getting addressed. And I tried my best. All I can say is I tried my best to meet all the conditions, like answer all the things in the rubric for the dissertation and meet all the minimums. Like the rubric will say, get it done in 2 paragraphs, the following, or 2 pages. And then you have the whole write your paragraphs in the meal format. M, main topic. E, evidence, evidence, evidence. A, analysis, and then L, link. And trying to do all that, I felt like crap. My paper was crap. My pieces were crap. I felt like I gave them crap. And I was quite embarrassed, actually. So when I turned it in, I said to myself, forget it. I'm going to turn it in best I can, meeting all the conditions. And I turned it in, and I got the feedback back. I made my end course, yay! But I didn't open the feedback for like 2 weeks. I just couldn't look at it because I knew what it was going to be. And then I opened it up and started reading the piece. Very nicely done, William. Blah 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 blah. However, I started hitting the things like one of the methodologists, not the master methodologist, but one of them said, we can tell when you put a bunch of citations at the end of a sentence that you really don't understand the references. So I thought, oh, well, I actually know my references quite well. I'll put them right where I see them. Well, that meant mid-sentence on a lot of stuff. And of course, my feedback comes back and says, a plethora, this is actually the word, a plethora of mid-sentence citations is distracting. And I was like, ah! So meet the minimums, hit all the things in the rubric, meet the meal writing, and prove you do understand, but don't put the citations in the middle where you're getting your information. Always put it at the end. I was like, oh, so I'm learning, and it's fun. I'm having a ball. I'm sure there's this right balance of the writing, and it's only going to come by keep trying and keep getting feedback and turning it in. And I also know that no matter what I do now, as I get my dissertation every Wednesday, I'm working on it. Today's Wednesday, and heck, today is, I should have said it, the 28th of April. Um, as I work and I improve every Wednesday my dissertation, eventually, I'm still think a year away or something, but in a year or so, I'll actually get my chair. And when I get my chair and I share the work I've done, I know, I know it'll be all tore apart and I'll have to redo it. And so I'm going in understanding that. But I have to have something for them to work with. And so that's what I'm going to do. So the dissertation is going well. I'm moving it around and adjusting. I'm actually attacking the literature review. I'm doing it a piece at a time. I know that's coming up, and that's a big deal. It's like 30 pages, so I need to do that right. So that's the dissertation. Let's see. Oh, school increased the fees. I'm not really happy. No, actually, it's only like $6 or $7 per credit hour, or $18 net overall. School rarely changes its tuition. That's great at GCU. Other schools I've been to, every year you can count on 5% or more, but GCU, they've not been like bumping the rates as far as I can tell. It's the first time, I guess, in a number of years. And the rates are actually quite fair from my perspective. I mean, money can be tight for everybody, but it seems like a fair thing. So rates went up. I think I got the email 2 days ago. That's fine. It's not too big of a deal. Is the value there? Absolutely, still a big value. The school itself is turning out to be a lot of fun. I saw this year, with them being eligible, and they won the WAC, right, the Western Area Conference for basketball, and got to go into March Madness and competed at the NCAA tournament. I thought that was so cool. So, my friends are, saying, "Hey, Bill, how's your school doing?" I said, "It's great," but they're in the tournament, and so it's fun to be able to share that. Now, we didn't win the first round. Okay, our school didn't embarrass themselves either. It didn't get blown out like some other schools did. Actually held their own, did pretty good. I had a ball watching and cheering. I love watching the students in the bleachers doing their, the thing. It was great. It's great fun to be a part of that. Um, so good for the school. I'm happy for the students. It's all going great. The program's great. The teachers are great. Tomorrow I start the statistics class. I'm looking at the number. It's Research 845, and I started looking at it. We get to use SPSS. It's a tool I've used a long time ago. Some of my clients, when I was consulting, big aerospace company up in the northwest, won't give any names, is moving their office more to Chicago area recently, and had plane problems, but I won't say who they are. They use SPSS a lot, so I got to work with it there. Although they were switching over to R, and R is actually where I feel more comfortable doing statistics, but that's okay. SPSS is what the school uses. And then that brings up another point that I think is important. So I can do a lot of really advanced math. This is not to brag or whatever, but compared to other students, my math level is off the charts for my peer group. Now, I know way more than I do about psychology and all the counseling, all that. But in the mathematics space, I'm very, very strong. However, the people who are going to be guiding my dissertation will not, in most likelihood, have the same level of math capability. And while talking to the master methodologist and listening to the stories that she was sharing, oftentimes it's better to do something more simplistic that everybody else understands. And it's not to degrade anybody or say people aren't capable. But when you're doing your dissertation, really what you're doing is a research in how to do research, or a project in research. And you, as the student, are trying to demonstrate your capability. What happens if I pick a very advanced mathematical technique to apply to do my analysis, and the people on my committee or the Academic Quality Review Board, AQR, they're not familiar with that? Well, then it becomes my job to educate them in this other kind of mathematics to justify my work. Well, hell, I'm still trying to figure stuff out myself on how to do good social science, behavioral science research. I mean, I'm the student here. the thought of trying to educate others in those things, plus still learning my own space, just makes it even harder for me. So, what I am learning and understanding more and more is I need to make things as simple as I possibly can. And you know what? If an ANOVA, an analysis of variance, single thing can apply, then the smartest thing I can do for my study is keep it ANOVA. If it has to bump into the multivariable, which is where I think I'm going to go because of the dimensions of my particular tool that I want to use, and so I have multivariables, that's okay too. But no further. Don't do any of the other kinds of stuff that's out there and available for analysis, even if I do feel comfortable doing it. Because if any of the members are not, I have to educate them on that. And that's in addition to them educating me, and it just makes the whole cycle and everything not so nice. And I want to get done, and every month it doesn't get done, or every term, I have to pay even more money to keep it going. So it doesn't make sense. So keep the advice is follow the process. Don't deviate. Don't try to invent something. Don't do anything harder than needs to be done. And if the people that are part of your committee or group or mentor circle or whatever aren't familiar with something, then don't do it, even if you can. Do what they know, nail it, and work on the area you're supposed to work on. So overall, life is great, having fun, and if you're on the fence about doing it, as I always say, the heck, go for it. Worst case, you stop. But my train's still rolling. Doesn't mean I don't have some days that I'm like, oh my god, why did I do this? I don't have to do this. But then something comes up that I learned, and I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have learned that otherwise. Some interesting knowledge piece. I really enjoyed the humanistic transpersonal existential psychology class because I got to dig into the philosophers, like Husserl, right? And that was really cool, or Heidegger. That was cool, like digging into those philosophers. And while I'd heard of them, I never really dug into them before. But I wouldn't have if I'd been in this program and taken that course and studied the phenomenological approach to doing stuff, which came out as part of this course because it's covering the humanistic psychology, which is the study of the whole person and what constitutes the whole person, and how do you do a phenomenological study of that. Cool stuff. Really cool. So until next time, when will I come back? I don't know. It's been a few months, maybe 6 months, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Doubtful. But maybe in a year. I don't know. So until the next time, let's out, everybody.